Hello everyone, welcome to today's guided reading session. It's the last one of the week as we only do it Monday to Thursday and there's a couple of different things for you to do here. So we're going to begin with page 140. This is carrying on exactly where we left off. We left Liam playing a very boring game of golf with the other dads and obviously he hadn't played before so he didn't quite know the rules. Okay. The other dads were all lined up ready to tee off again. Samson 1 drove his ball over down the fairway in another lovely parabola. I kept hold of my niblick. Oh, you can't tee off with a niblick, smiled Dr. Drax. I'm not teeing off. I chipped the ball into the back of the golf buggy. Now look what you've done, snarled Monsieur Martinet. I've done, I said, a stroke of genius. When you drive up onto the green in the buggy, my ball will go to the green in the back of the buggy, and I'll just chip it out again. You can't do that! You can't send your ball around the golf course in a car? Why not? The rules. Golf has rules, lots of rules. That's the beauty of the game. Samson 1 said, Logic says he can. If we think of the golf buggy as a hazard, well then, balls do go into hazards. Sand traps and ponds and so on. When you say hazard to normal people, they think of ice on the road, or fog, or sudden invasions of night owls. Golfers think you mean sand, or a puddle with a duck in it. Hazards, said Monsieur Martinet, do not get up and take the balls right up to the hole, do they? No, but you can't interfere with the hazard, and if this hazard happens to be heading to the green, then the ball will have to go with it. You could tell that Monsieur Martinet was unhappy about this by the way he started waving his 5-iron round his head and yelling about how childish I was. I'm childish? I'm not the one getting all stressed about a game. Honestly, grown-ups talk about teenagers spending too much time online and taking games too seriously. A game of golf seems to take about 3 years, and they talk about it like the next stroke is going to save the world. Yes, childish, what kind of father are you? No wonder your daughter is so complicated when you have so little regard for rules. I looked at him. He really thought he was a level 40 monster, and I was some sort of level 7 baby warrior who'd run away if he snarled at me. But I had my mental elixir. I let it fill my brain and then I engaged. You think you're a good dad? What kind of parent lets his child go off into space while he plays golf? Monsieur Martinet looked a bit confused when I said that. And so did the other dads, until Dr. Drax said, Aren't you doing exactly that, Mr. Digby? Well, yes, I was, but I knew that my dad would never do that, let alone my mum. I said, in my school, my child's school, when they go on a trip, a responsible parent goes with them, even if it's only to the museum or the art gallery. In the New Strand shopping centre, you're not even allowed to go into the newsagent without an accompanying adult. Why aren't you doing that here? You mean you'd like to go to space with the children? Asked Dr. Drax. Yes, of course I would. But they were all staring at me. Monsieur Martinet rolled his eyes and muttered, Of course he should wish to be with the children. He is a child, tall but a child. Dr. Drax held her hands up. I think, she said, I am having one of my great ideas. We waited to see what it was. A daddy in space. I will send one of you to space. But which one? I said, me, I'll go. Don't be ridiculous, snarled Monsieur Martinet. The job needs a real leader. I'll go. It might be better to have someone capable of understanding the science, said Samson 1. Someone like me. Let's have a little competition, said Dr. Drax. I can see from the way you play golf that you're all very competitive, and you are all so different. Monsieur Martinet imposes a strong discipline. Samson 1 believes in education. I certainly do. Mr. Xanadu is very indulgent or generous, and Mr. Digby is... She looked at me as though she was trying to remember why she specially selected me. In the end, she said, Mr. Digby is available. When you say competition, said Mr. Xanadu, simple. You'll all do the space training with your children, and the one who proves to be the best taikonaut, no, not the best taikonaut, the best father, will go to space. Yes, I'd really levelled up this time. It was like when you get to the next stage of a game and the whole landscape changes, and it's full of new dangers and different thrills. I'd levelled up from a round of golf to space exploration. I will be the winner, said Monsieur Martinet. When it comes to winning, I wrote the manual. Me, said Samson 1. I have the brains. Me, said Mr. Xanadu, because I want to, and I do tend to get what I want. That, said Dr. Drax, is for the children to decide. We'll let them vote. I was dying to hear all about the rocket. The minute Florida came through the door, I said, so what's it like, the rocket? She said, it's all right. That's it, your first day on a real rocket, and that's all you can say? It's all right? No. What else? I'm starving. I remembered the bit in Torture Teen about using fiddly food to get teenagers to talk. I made a stir fry and said, let's use real chopsticks. I don't know how to use chopsticks. There's instructions on the packet. They're in Chinese. Just try. It made the meal last a long time, but it didn't improve the conversation because we were concentrating so hard on the chopsticks. In the end, I just said, well, it doesn't matter if you don't tell me what the rocket's like anyway, because I'm going on it too. And I told her all about the competition. Finally, Florida began to communicate. She said, what's so funny? Your joke. You are joking, aren't you? You don't really think you're going to win. I might. Liam, have you got a bike? I've got a Cherokee Chief. Is it a fast bike? It's got 23 gears. Could it win the Grand National? No. Why not? Because it's not a horse. And you won't win the dad competition because you are not a dad. True. On the other hand, I'm not an actual elf warrior either, but the Wanderlust warriors rule the floor in World of Warcraft. Liam, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm saying pretending sometimes works, like at Little Stars. Okay, so help me pretend to be your dad. All you have to do is call me Dad. Okay, I'll call you Dad. Thanks. Provided you call me your little princess. My little what? It's what my real dad calls me. I miss being called princess. Please. I'll try. Right, that's the end of that chapter. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, can you summarise what that chapter is about, starting from the children beginning their astronaut training while the dads play golf. So think about it as a whole. What's it about? And then also, how does the relationship between Liam and Florida change? Okay, so what's different towards the end compared to the beginning of that chapter? How are those characters different as well? Okay, pause me here, have a go at that, and then we're going to move on to the final part of our guided reading. Right, hopefully you've had a go. If you want to send me through your answers, I'd love to see them. Now then, because it is such a chunky book, it's well over 300 pages, what we're going to do so that we can read all of it and so that we get the very best bits out of it, we're going to kind of skip a section of around 50 pages. Now, if you've got the book at home and you want to spend between now and Monday reading those pages so that you know exactly what happens, you're very welcome to, and you can look away from what I'm about to do now. Okay, if you don't have the book or you just don't want to read all of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize kind of the main things that happen in that time so that when we start reading from page 202 on Monday, you'll kind of know where we're at with it. Okay, so I'm going to summarize. It's on the screen. It's also on the website. I'll read it out, but also you can read it at your own pace. And then we've got a little prediction activity at the end. Okay, so as it mentioned, there's going to be this competition between the dads as to who's going to be the best father and get to go in space. And it begins. So each child gets a vote each day, and the person with the most votes at the end will win. First challenge, they have to go to the Gobi Desert. As you can imagine, it's quite hot. And Dr. Drax says, right, quite simply, I've got a flag out there in the desert. I need you to go and get it and bring it back for me. Okay, teamwork. So, as you could imagine, there's lots of arguments between the team. Dad's trying to be the best, children getting fed up in the heat. Monsieur Martinet in particular shouts a lot at Max. And then Liam comes up with the idea on how to find the flag. They do a bit of sand dune surfing. So he gets the idea. He kind of essentially saves everyone's life. But at the end of the day, everybody votes for Eddie Xanadu. Why, you might ask? Because he gives them ice cream. Okay, you know he's a bit of a briber, Eddie Xanadu. And yeah, he gives all the children ice cream, so they all vote for him. So he's got 4 votes at the end of the first day. Next day, they all get to go and try on their spacesuits. They're these big things that blow up, a bit like if you've seen Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's when Violet Beauregard goes huge and like a big ball. So they're trying on their spacesuits, And Eddie Xanadu sneakily passes Liam some alcohol, and they both have a drink, and Liam ends up getting really drunk. So drunk, in fact, that he acts really silly, and he gets told off by all the adults and the children. He's kind of bumping them with his big inflatable suit, and yeah, he gets told off a lot. All right. Then Florida and Liam get into an argument, and she kind of reveals accidentally that the dad that she's been saying treats her like a princess and buys her all these presents isn't quite as great as she said he is. Okay. So actually, he's not around very much. He hasn't seen him a lot, and he's even forgotten her birthday before. Okay. At the end of the second day, surprisingly, each dad gets a vote, including Liam. So at the end of the second day, Eddie Xanadu's got 5 votes. Everybody else has got 1. The third day, the final day that I'm going to tell you about here, they go on something called the Vomit Comet. It sounds exactly like what it is. It's basically a plane that turns into like a zero gravity ride that makes people feel a bit sick. Okay, so they go on this ride and Liam ends up playing this like crazy game of like zero gravity tag with the other children. Again, the other dads are like, oh, how childish. And yeah, and Monsieur Martinet is sick and Florida has to collect the sick in this kind of like floating bag. And at the end of that day, one more thing. When they get off the plane, they meet Dr. Drax's daughter, Shenzhen. Okay, so she's just a child. She was the one flying the plane. Okay, and then at the end of that day, everyone gets a vote, 1 vote each again, which means Eddie's got 6 votes and everybody else has 2 votes. So he's still in the lead. When Liam speaks to Florida, he finds out she didn't vote for him. She voted for Monsieur Martinet because he threw up and she thought that was funny. Okay, so that's kind of a summary of what happens there. Like I said, you can read that at your own pace. And what we want you to do is have a go at predicting what happens next. Okay, so at the moment, it looks like Eddie's being sent into space. He's got 6 votes. Everyone else has got 2. What do you reckon is going to happen next? Perhaps what do you think is going to happen with the training? Can you use what's happened so far in the text with your prediction, including clues from Liam's flash forward into space? Okay, we've had in earlier chapters, we've kind of had these, instead of flashbacks, flash forwards, where it's Liam in space. So what happens in between now and then? Write me a nice juicy prediction if possible. If you want to share them with me, that would be great. And hopefully on Monday, we will start revealing what actually happens. Okay. Happy reading, guys. I'll see you later.